Minister in the presidency, Kumbutsa Ntshavheni, has firmly denied allegations that the government is granting preferential treatment to Elon Musk's Starlink. Amid a political storm surrounding new policy directives aimed at easing broad-based black economic empowerment, BBBE requirements for satellite service licensing. The controversy erupted after reports suggested that the draft policy changes, which could open the door for Starlink to operate in South Africa, may have been influenced by recent diplomatic engagements between President Cyril Ramaphosa and the US officials, including tech billionaire Musk. Speaking on News from Africa, Ntshavheni rejected any claims of special treatment, insisting that all multinational companies must adhere to South African laws without exception. He said there was no discussion of Starlink, either in the Oval Office or during the subsequent lunch. Every player, whether American, Chinese, or otherwise, must comply with our existing laws, including transformation requirements. She further dismissed the narrative of a red carpet being rolled out for Starlink, pointing to competitive international offerings, and said why the obsession with the Starlink. The Chinese have low Earth orbit technology that arguably surpasses Starlink. We are not making concessions for one company. This comes after it was reported that the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema, lambasted the proposed policy, reiterating his party's opposition to any relaxation of BBBE requirements. Addressing the supporters in Free State town of Koppes ahead of next week's by-elections, Malema condemned what he described as government capitulation to US pressure. Malema said this is a betrayal of transformation. Starlink was blocked for not meeting empowerment laws, and now suddenly the rules are being changed after comments from White House. The Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies has since summoned Communications Minister Solly Malatsi and his department to explain the rationale behind the newly gazetted policy directives. Committee Chairperson Khuselo Diko expressed concerns that the directives could violate the Electronic Communications Act and unfairly favor Musk's SpaceX. Diko said we need clarity. The appearance of these policy shifts so soon after high-level US engagements raises red flags. The draft policy has also drawn fire from other opposition figures. Build One SA boss Deputy Leader Hlazo Webster warned that such concessions set a dangerous precedent and said this is not transformation, it's capitulation. The message is clear: powerful foreign billionaires can bend our rules, while local businesses face endless red tape. What begins as a special concession ends in state capture. Elon, who has previously criticized South Africa's BBBE framework, once claimed Starlink was denied entry because he's not black, a statement that further inflamed debate. While the government insists that the policy review is part of broader strategy to foster satellite-based connectivity, critics argue it risks undermining the very laws designed to redress historical economic imbalances. With the parliamentary briefing pending, the fate of the policy and Starlink's South African ambitions remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that the issue has ignited a national conversation about equity, sovereignty, and the fine line between global investment and domestic compromise. Ntshavheni also said the AfriForum's plan to steer relations between South Africa and the US failed. She said during the President Cyril Ramaphosa's recent working visit to the US, on the invitation of the President Donald Trump, AfriForum had definitely wished for a different treatment of Ramaphosa, or at the least a different outcome of the meeting. Ntshavheni said, however, wishes aren't horses, or else beggars will be riding. She said on diplomatic courtesies, according to President Ramaphosa, I've been part of a few delegations that have accompanied President Ramaphosa to the US. I must indicate this working visit is one of those where better diplomatic courtesies were accorded to our president. She said from the reception at the airport and at the White House itself, Ramaphosa was a guest of Trump and the treatment was that of a valued guest. She pointed out that there's an acknowledgement of Mzansi as an important player in geopolitics and said President Ramaphosa is the first African head of state and government to be invited in the White House in the second term of the Trump administration. It is not only the significance of the invitation that matters, it's the issues the two leaders discussed beyond South Africa's domestic issues. She further stated that during the media session at the Oval Office, Trump updated Ramaphosa on the progress on his Russia or Ukraine conflict settlement initiative, to which Ramaphosa emphasized the role South Africa continues to play in also seeking a negotiated settlement to that conflict. Furthermore, Jabeni said Trump also updated Ramaphosa on the U.S. efforts to settle the DRC or Rwanda conflict, and said in diplomatic terms, this is another acknowledgement that any peace initiatives in Africa cannot exclude South Africa. Equally, President Ramaphosa updated him on the confidence-building measures as driven by SADC and the EAC towards a negotiated settlement for peace in the eastern DRC. The minister said there were no signs of the impatience the world had witnessed during other recent visits to the White House. Conspicuously, President Ramaphosa was not on babysitting duties of his favorite toddlers. The most significant revelations that President Trump suspected he was being fed a dummy by AfriForum and their type that sought to gaslight South Africa came during the Q&A. Jabeni admitted the next round of African Growth and Opportunity Act negotiations are going to be tough, and unfortunately, the biggest losers in South Africa if AGOA is cancelled or 32 participating African countries get less favorable terms will be white farmers, courtesy of AfriForum, and said the biggest beneficiary of AGOA in South Africa is white farmers.
Well, Starlink, as you know, is a subsidiary of SpaceX, Elon Musk's company, who is developing this low-orbit satellites to enhance connectivity, particularly in rural areas and in areas that are not easily accessible by your mobile telephone companies. So that is the business model that he has put up. Now, many people believe that we went to Washington to discuss Starlink. That is not so. The issue of Starlink never even came up in the discussions that we had in the White House with President Trump, notwithstanding the fact that Elon Musk was there as part of the US delegation. So it wasn't discussed. The process of having low orbit satellites providing Wi-Fi and internet connectivity is known in South Africa. We've been through that. And there are quite a number of other companies, Chinese companies, European companies, and Russian companies, and many others, and local companies who are interested in getting into that space. So people tend to focus on one company only, and yet we've got a plethora of companies that would want to get into this space. So the environment to enhance or enable investment to happen in that space is precisely what needs to be properly crafted, properly permitted to enable that to happen. So the process that the minister has unleashed is a process that is going to elicit a lot of comment from the public, from various key stakeholders, including current role players in the sector. So,
what's your take on this one, people? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more news.